The light variable winds are going to make your fishing great in both freshwater and the salt. The heat is still a part of the consideration, so go early and know that our guides are standing by to get you headed in the right direction. So get ready, because it's time for the Texas Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Captain Rick Murphy is back with us this week, and I know he's going to have some fish stories for us from fishing with our Lower Coast captain, Chad Kinney. Rick, did you have a good time?
Man, we had a great time. You know, Brie, we were down there filming a Sportsman's Adventure episode for the 2023 season. We were catching big kingfish right off of the beach behind Chad's big Bertram, and I want to tell you, it was so much fun pulling the Berkeley stick shads as well as the magic swimmers, and we had the best time. I can't wait to share that with you guys.
Trying it out. Well, it sounds like you had fun. Before we get to our Labor Day weekend reports, let's go say hi to Dave Farrell at the workbench. What are we talking about this week, Dave?
Well, we're going to be talking about shark fishing. You know, Texas has got one of the best shark fisheries in the world, and we're going to show you a little bit about how to catch them.
Catching them toothy critters.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's just jump right into our STARTRON Middle Fresh region with Matt Loescher and see what kind of weekend we're going to have on Sam Rayburn, Richland Chambers, and Toledo Bend. Go for it.
All right, Bree. So, you know, we've had a bunch of rain around here lately in the Middle Fresh region. So we've got a big influx of water this past week, kind of flowing in. And some of the lakes like Whitney and Richland Chambers, Toledo Bend, they saw significant rises in water level, while others didn't get quite as much. The rain was a little bit spotty, but where we got it, it was a lot. For the largemouth bass bite, this rain may have helped the anglers on some of the lakes. Like, for example, on Richland Chambers, there are more docks now there that have enough water to fish. Mr. Thurman Selman with Bass and Specialty Guide Service, he reports that the water temperatures cooled off and the lake's risen about 6 inches. So that doesn't sound like much, but it's significant when you're talking about these big, expansive flats. You know, a little bit of water covers a lot of area. And so he says that the fish have moved some, so the docks that you have been catching around may not be as good, but there's a lot more docks now that offer good fishing. So it's spread out opened up some more opportunities. He says that a shaky head rigged with a Bass Assassin tap-out worm is his go-to around these docks right now. And he's still fishing it very slowly. He's in that slow summertime pattern where they just don't want to bite much, but he says you can catch them. You just have to be patient. He says get that worm back there as far as you can underneath those docks, way back in the shade, and just let it soak. Now down here on Toledo Bend, we have had about a 6-inch rise in water level here as well. And once again, the water temperature came down a little bit due to the rain. Temperatures hanging in the low to mid 80s. And the water level is slowly coming back down. Over the past 2 weeks, it jumped up about 6 inches, and now it's back down about 4 inches. So it's kind of stabilizing and coming back down. That rain did get some more good shoreline vegetation growing in some places that were just broad, muddy banks before. So that's going to help a lot, especially come springtime. And the location of the fish didn't really seem to change much, but it did scatter them out a little bit. And so they haven't been biting quite as good because they're not as bunched up. So it's made things a little tougher, but I predict that things are going to kind of stabilize soon and be back to the way they were probably by this weekend or early next week here on Toledo Bend. That is if we don't get another big rain. Now, crankbaits and worms are still the ticket here on Toledo Bend. The tap-out worm is working great here as well. I'm using that in watermelon red and Junebug, especially. I like the Junebug when it's darker out. And then for the crankbait, just shad imitating colors. Anything that's, like a sexy shad or something like that works good. Now over at Sam Rayburn, the water level didn't change as much over there. It rose about 3 inches, but they are generating at the dam, so I look for that to get sucked back out pretty quickly as well and get back down to where it was also. The largemouth really showed out over there this past weekend. In a tournament there, the weights were really strong, especially on the first day. But Mr. Tater Reynolds, he actually won that event. He had 24 pounds for both days for a total of 48 pounds. So he had 2 really good days, so there's still a lot of big fish being caught on Rayburn. Very strong work there. Congratulations on that win. It sounds like more and more big fish are being caught in the grass over there. However, there's still a lot of big ones being caught out deep too. So it seems like kind of like numbers and some size up in the grass. And then the biggest ones are still being caught out deep around brush and rough bottom spots. And then for that offshore bite, it's the same old players, a Carolina rig, a football jig, and then a big worm or a crankbait are all catching them really good over there. Now swapping up to stripers and hybrids and white bass too, kind of lumping them all together. They all kind of run together. They're biting pretty good, sounds like, on Lake Whitney right now, early in the mornings and late in the evenings on topwater plugs. Then up at Richland Chambers, the hybrids and the white bass are still biting well, and they're catching those mostly on live shad and then some topwater also. And finishing out with the crappie. The crappie bite's been a bit of a grind lately here in the Middle Fresh region, but we are catching some. On Toledo Bend, the bite's been slow, but if you hang with it, you can catch them. The crappie are still in about 20 to 30 foot of water. They're hanging around the vertical cover like the trees and the bridge pilings. The jig bite is the best. They're not biting the minnows as well still. And for the color, I'm liking that pumpkin seed shad and then monkey milk with a chartreuse tail. Those have been my go-tos lately. And I've got a photo here for you of Mr. Bill. He came all the way down from Illinois to catch some of these Toledo Bend crappie, and he caught himself a real nice slab on a trip with my dad this week. And then finishing out on the crappie, Mr. Thurman up on Richland Chambers says that the crappie there are in 15 to 20 foot of water on standing timber and brush as well.
All right, bud, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Rodan Marine Systems hotspots from the Middle Fresh region. My man Matt says that the largemouth are scattered between a shallow and a deep bite. Most of the bigger fish are hanging out on the deeper and the smaller fish are on the shallows. The crankbaits and soft plastics are your best baits. Stripers and whites and hybrids are all biting well on topwater plugs and live shad. And then don't forget those crappie are slow, but you can catch a few by casting jigs to them, Brie.
All right, let's head to the GARMIN Middle Coast region where the reds, trout, black drum, and tarpon are making an impression, according to Captain Bink Grimes. So, Bink, let's get on them.
All right, Middle Coast, we finally got a lot of rainfall this week. This bodes well for our wildlife, fish included. It determines our white shrimp crop for the fall. It also determines how good our fishing will be in October. The grassy banks along the north shoreline of East Bay are holding trout for waders, salts, and topwaters, while the upper end of West Matagorda Bay has been consistent with north winds for trout to 5 pounds over shell. Work Coon Island, Shell Island, the Barge, and Half Moon Reef. Then those reefs are holding large schools of trout on live shrimp, bass assassins, and little johns. In Port O'Connor, those high tides have scattered fish in the back lakes and bayous. There's been lots of small trout under birds in the back reaches of the bay, but the best trout have been feeding on that shell on topwaters on the incoming tide early in the morning. Waders working the flats adjacent to Pasco Bayou has found good fish on sheep pups and soft dines. Coming in, we got a real ardent tide in the morning that's really pushing in from the Gulf, and it's just bulling our tides up. Mirror lures have worked well against the rocks at the jetty as well. And then in Freeport, the back lakes and bayous around Bastrop and Chocolate Bay have been good for live shrimp, fished on the drop-offs and along the ledges. Rockport anglers, man, they've had great fishing on super flats and Mesquite Bay on topwaters. These places are really, really good when you get these good fall tides. Then people tossing bait around Mud Island and Trailer Island have done well. We got a few days in the surf last week. Good catches came on topwaters and live shrimp under a popping cork. Most of those fish were tight on the beach inside the first gut with the high tide. The photo there's a surf trout caught along the beachfront that we quickly released back to the Gulf. I tell you, our redfish is starting to pick up because of these high tides, these fall autumn tides. Bull redfish begin their trek to the Gulf, and many are on the beachfront from Surfside to Port Aransas. All the jetties right now are players. Surfside, Freeport, lots of redfish along there on cracked blue crabs, mullet, and table shrimp. Port O'Connor jetty's been great for big bull reds in 35 to 60 foot of water. Same holds true in Port Aransas. Guide Mike Roth of Matagorda said those swollen tides have been a boon for bruiser reds in West Matagorda Bay. The same, Brett Sweeney said the same thing. Waders have found those fish in West Matagorda Bay along the shorelines. But the high tide has pushed them way tight in that knee-deep water. They're getting after those shrimp that are trying to hide in the grass. Black drum, the same thing's happening with black drum elevated tides are pushing those redfish in the back lakes. It also is a great time to catch black drum in the same locale. Spots like Shell Island, Twin Island, Crab Island, and Oyster Lake are great spots. In Port O'Connor, Bill Day's Reef, Panther Reef, and then all those reefs in the middle of San Antonio Bay are really, really good. Shell in Turtle Bay around Tres Palacios has been good on the incoming tide, and there's been some larger drum to 20 inches while drifting the middle of East Matagorda Bay around Boiler Bow and Raymond Shoals. This time of year, our tarpon begin to pick up. In September, seas have been conducive. Here lately, we've had seas running 2 foot or less. That's been the pattern. Most anglers are drifting mullet and live menhaden in front of rolling fish. Lure chunkers are throwing those coon pops. Generally, we see an influx, all this month and into October. When all those menhaden and shad show up along the beachfront, those tarpon are shallowing. Our bay should be a lot quieter in September. Football season starting here. It's big in Texas. Hunting season cranks up in the Lone Star State. Dove season opens this weekend. Teal season runs September 10th through the 25th. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend in the Garmin Middle Coast region. Please be aware of your fellow man, your boaters. There'll be a lot of people on the water. Be patient, be courteous, and please take care of our waterways and release more than you take.
All right, Bink, thank you so much. We're going to go and take a look at the mirror lure hotspots from the Middle Coast region. Bink says that the trout are good while waiting, with soft dines and bass assassins over the reefs in East Bay. Redfish action is good along the beachfront on crabs and those big table shrimp that he talks about all the time, Brie.
Labor Day, fall, autumn tides, football season, hunting. What's happening? Summer's just by.
What happened to our season?
I don't know.
4 weeks left.
I know. It's crazy. All right, right now we're getting our fish on in the lower fresh region coming right up. But first, Dave is showing us how to get those sharks on for rigs and techniques at the workbench.
Yep, we certainly are. And hopefully we're going to tell you how to keep them on. That's the most important thing.
There you go.
We're going to go through a whole lot of different ways to use wire.
Keeping them on and keeping your digits.
Yeah,
we'll
exactly.
Be back.
Exactly.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Bahio Sunglasses. Blue light blocking. Radically clear lenses. Garmin. Plot your paradise. Fibertex. Leaders in fiberglass fabrication and repair. Sportsman's Adventures. Fishing for adventure. Berkeley. Your fish, our science. And Skeeter Performance Fishing Boats. Eat, sleep, fish.
Dave, we're here at the Rigs and Techniques. I got to tell you, I missed you last week.
Yeah, man.
But
you were having fun. You were
Yeah,
having fun.
we certainly were. You're talking about wire leader. We were down there with Chad fishing for kingfish, and they got some teeth, but sharks for sure.
Yeah, he's the ultimate toothy critter. A shark's teeth, they keep growing their whole life. They keep growing new ones. A new row comes up, they'll shed them, and a new row comes up. And that's why we have all these millions of shark teeth laying around and fossil records and everything, because they just produce millions and millions of teeth all the time. What we need to do is once we get something in that mouth, we need it to come back out, because you have to use a circle hook. When you're fishing in state waters in Texas, you have to have a non-offset, non-stainless steel circle hook. And what a non-offset hook is one that you can lay flat on a table and it won't, the hook point is facing directly at the shank of the hook.
That's correct.
If it's off to either side, it's called an offset hook.
Correct.
And what those offset hooks can do, because we're using a big bait and we want the shark to swallow it all the way down, that offset hook will sometimes catch on soft tissue in his throat or in his mouth, and we'll pull and pull and pull, and then finally it'll tear out. It won't get that corner. Now, a non-offset hook will find that corner of the jaw, and once that thing gets in that corner of that jaw, it's hard for it to come out. Not only that, it keeps all the rest of your leader out of his mouth.
Right.
So a lot of times, for smaller sharks like the bonnet heads and the little spinner sharks and black tips and whatnot that we can catch in the surf, we can use a small circle hook, even with sometimes light monofilament leaders, and get like these here, you know, you can get, this is a surf rig, but this is a pre-made surf rig. But you can use a mono sometimes, even a 20-pound monofilament, and you can still catch bonnet heads and stuff like that. Right. You'll lose a few rigs, but, you know, this is a good example right here, though. This is a pre-made rig. And
but
if
you couldn't technically use this
exactly
because there's your offset hook, guys.
Right. If you go into a store and buy a rig, sometimes it might not
be in
compliance with the regulations in the state, because they ship these rigs all over the place and they don't know what's right. going on. So you know you gotta be careful when you're out there doing that. Now we've got some single strand wire here, which is the same kind of stuff you use for kingfish and whatnot. And when you're building yourself one of these wire leaders, if you're fishing from a boat and you're catching sharks that are over 100 pounds, you want to make sure you have really good swivels and a long leader, longer than you'd normally put for a kingfish or something like that, because a lot of sharks like to roll up in the leader, especially when they get alongside the boat. They'll do like an alligator and they'll just start rolling, and they'll roll themselves all the way up the leader until they get to your main line. Right. And they have that really rough skin. Sharks have really hard, rough skin, and it'll chafe through your main line,
especially spinners.
Correct. Yeah. So what we want, and when you're picking your hook, here's another thing. Not only is it a non-offset, offset type deal, you want to try to pick a hook with a really good gap in between. You know, a lot of them will come all the way down almost to the shank, but you want a wider gap, the wider the possible, because a shark has a really thick corner.
Right.
His jaws are really thick, and when you get that bait, that hook around there, you want it to have a big enough gap that it'll fit around the corner of the jaw. Not only that, we're using big baits. And when you have a great big bait like that, you still need to have a big gap, because now that bait is taking up some of that gap. If you can get the bait a little bit away from the bait, I mean the hook away from the bait sometimes, like 3 or 4 inches, and have you a nice piece of 130-pound Dacron attached to the bait somehow,
right? And
he swallows that whole mess down, the hook has to come out first if it's way out in front, if it's 4 or 5 inches out in front. And he'll swallow all that leader and junk down a good ways when he swallows that bait. So when you start to pull that bait slowly out, which is how we hook them, you know, we let them swim away, swim away, and then we put the drag up. And when we put that drag up and he comes swimming tight on it, it'll find that corner and it'll come out first. That hook will come out first versus the bait coming out and him opening his mouth to let the bait out.
And the other thing people make mistakes is you got to match the hook and the wire size to the size fish that you're fishing.
Right.
Just like the swivel.
Right.
If you're fishing for little bonnet heads or little surf sharks, you know, stuff under 60 pounds, you don't need a hook of this size. You don't need wire of this size.
No, that's for a big bull shark, you know, or a big lemon shark, you know, a shark over 6 feet long. Let's say.
This is really nicely done, Dave.
Well, you know, you can put. I would put 2. If you always put 2 crimps, whenever you're crimping anything, especially a shark leader or any kind of leader you know is going to get a big heavy pull on it, if you put 2 crimps instead of 1, it'll never pull. It'll never pull apart.
I think I want to do a rigs and techniques where you just show us these knots on how to join this up.
Yeah, I wanted to show the braid where you melt the plastic.
Let's just do it next week. We'll just continue this next week on how we promote that.
Okay, let's add to that segment how to or how not to approach or grab the shark once you get into the boat.
Exactly, we didn't get to that either.
That would be a bad day. But there are no bad days in the lower fresh region. So let's hear what is getting Matt Reed up and at him in the mornings. Talk to us, Matt.
All right, Brie. Heck, I get up and at 'em most every morning down here chasing these lovely largemouth bass around. Enjoy it a ton. Let's start off talking about my favorite one, Falcon Lake. It continues to be awesome right now most days. The bass are big and they're biting. We've been fortunate to catch a little over 3 foot of water. These changing conditions have been keeping me on my toes as the fish are using different locations from day to day. They're still using the rock ledges, the hard spots, and the brush piles. You just have to keep moving until you find an area that they're active. Once you run into them, it can happen really quickly. Typical example, yesterday we struggled most of the day, pulled up on a spot, and within 30 minutes had caught, 8 fish in a row that were between 6 and 8 pounds. I mean, just crazy times. Texas rig worms and Carolina rig flukes have been your best bet. If you get the urge, give me a shout, and we'll let you can come take your turn at them. Mike Bates has sent me a report from Choke Canyon. It continues on a slow rise also from some of the rain we've gotten lately. Some of the areas are off color, but the bite has still been really good for size and numbers. The outside grass line, hydrilla line, is what's producing best. It's going to require a little more water before he's got an inside grass line to concentrate on. Top water has still been excellent for the first 30 minutes of the morning. After that, moving baits and shad or bluegill colors on the outside edge of the grass have been best. Greg Boyd sent me a report from Fayette County. Most of the fish are coming right at that 15 to 20 foot range because that's where the thermocline's set up. Carolina rigs and drop shots fished really slowly have been your best bet. Green pumpkin and tilapia colors are what they've been favoring. The bites have been slow. Big fish are few and far between as they seem to be suspended above the schools of the smaller fish. Also, Lake Somerville, bites have been fair. Using a wacky rig soft stick bait on the outside of the brush piles and big 10-inch worms on the road beds on the south end of the lake. Around that island have been the best areas. Red bug and black have been his favorite colors so far. Got 3 pictures there from out of my boat this week. Got Matthew, Corey, and myself with a trio of Falcon Specials. There's been lots of smiles this week. We've had tons of big fish.
Well, Rick's not smiling.
Yeah.
He's shaking his head again. Nice fish.
My man.
Let's talk about some catfish. Falcon Lake catfishing report from Ram Reyes has been really good. The big catfish are out on the flats in 10 to 15 foot of water using cut bait. Cut carp or cut big gizzard shad have been his favorite baits. The keepers are shallow around structure, catching them under a floating cork with a 2.5 foot leader using shrimp in that 3 to 5 foot range. Got a picture of one of the big old blue cats one of his customers has caught this week. They just catch some mega giant blue cats. The lake is full of food and it grows fish.
Wow.
Also got the white bass report from down here at Falcon. Right now, there's massive schools of them out on the main lake drops. I mean, just thousands and thousands. You can catch one every throw. Most of them are in that 7 to 12 feet of water. Use your electronics to pinpoint them, and it's game on. Shad color crankbaits, you're going to catch 1 or 2 nearly every cast. There's just thousands of them stacked up right now.
That's so awesome. You know, Matt, I want to ask you, those big old giant catfish like that, do they eat those or they let them go?
He lets those go. That's why he refers to them as trophy cats and eater-sized cats, because they keep a lot of the, 2 to 5 pound catfish, but those trophy blues, he lets those fish go to fight again another day.
All right, well, I've been working diligently to get together a care package box for all your guys. I'm working on it. I want you to know, tell them it's coming. I appreciate all their effort this year. And I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at the FiberTech hotspots from the Lower Fresh region. Matt says that the Falcon Lake continues to be amazing. The main lake rocks and the brush piles in 12 to 20 feet of water are the ticket. Texas rig 10-inch worms and Carolina rigs will produce a bunch of fish with some of the giants included. Get down here and enjoy the fun. You know what? When you come out there to go deer hunting, maybe we should book a day and go over and fish with him. He's only 40 miles away.
Let's diligently work on that.
I can't speak.
Can't speak today. Welcome back to the show, buddy.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting you ready.
Standing next to you, Brie. It does it to me every time.
We're getting you ready for the holiday weekend in the Lower Coast and Upper Fresh region when we come back. And remember to keep up with everything fishing in Texas. Make sure to head on over to our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and as always, to see new fishing adventures along with our reports, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Captain Rick Murphy. See you soon.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Island Lures, Tournament Tackle, Rodan. Set it, forget it. Catch more fish. Sirius XM Marine. Weather, fish mapping, entertainment. Shallow Sport. Berkeley. Your fish, our science. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Penn. Let the battle begin.
Today's Power Pole tip of the week is about the many different ways that you can mount your power pole. Now, I often get asked, hey, Captain Rick, how do we install this? Well, it's real simple, guys. All makes and models come with a standard bracket. It's designed to drill 4 holes in the transom, and then you through bolt the power pole through the transom itself. Now, we also have a variety of different brackets that are designed for different applications. This particular one is called the adapter plate for jack plates. Now, I like this because, one, it angles out my power poles like this. Plus, I also have the ability during the installation to have adjustments up and down, as well as adjust the tips in and out. The other thing that's very, very common is the engine mount. That simply uses the bolts from the engine, and then we have these wings that come off just like you see here, giving you a great angle like you have with the jack plate adapter. Now, the other thing that we also use is the deck mount for those guys that have pontoons. So that actually bolts to the top. So keep in mind there's many different ways to mount your power pole, and that's today's Power Pole tip of the week. You know, Brie, they have an adapter plate for everything. So there's no excuse not to have a shallow water anchor on the back of your boat.
No
and that
excuses,
power pole
people.
Makes one for every application.
There you go.
Don't even mess around anymore.
No excuses.
Nope.
All right, well, the Reds and Trout are holding strong inshore and offshore. We're looking at some good eats with Dorado and Snapper in the lower coast region. So let's get Captain Kinney with the skinny. Hey, Captain.
Aha.
I like that. That's a good rhyme there. But
Thanks.
talking about the weather forecast, it's looking great. We got some calm winds offshore's going to be good, beachfront's going to be good, inshore's going to be good. So whatever you guys are looking for, I'll get you a decent report here to get you started, but anything is wide open right now. So redfish, they're starting to school up. We've seen some smaller schools, and there's a few bigger schools, especially up at like 9 Mile Hole and in the flats here, like around West Bay, Port Mansfield. Trout fishing's been really good along the King Ranch shoreline and some sunken spoils out of Port Mansfield, but moving those redfish, they're starting to get some better numbers. We've been seeing lots of singles, and then with some calmer days like that, you're starting to see some bigger schools show up if you get lucky and get on them or see what you're looking for. Look for larger wakes pushing on those bigger numbers of concentration. It's just going to be a huge ripple, maybe like a quarter acre of them. You'll see them moving through there. Definitely, this is when you want to use your shallow sport boat to get up in and out of those shallow water flats to look for them. And with lighter winds coming up, as we know down here, which is pretty rare, but it can happen, you definitely need a Rodan trolling motor is a must if you're going to try to get these guys and be able to follow them. You don't want to run up on them and blow them out and spook the whole school. A good trick here is if you guys, for getting a farther cast, mirror lure top water, it's a heavier bait, it's going to be able to cast farther, so you get more of a distance to get to on those schools. If you're using soft plastic, then go to a saltwater assassin sea shad with a paddle tail. You can remove that pretty quick through there, and they'll get that bite really going and attack it. I said, make sure don't run over these schools when you get there. So the best thing is if you see them, kind of circle around, get a good guess where they're going, stop with plenty of distance, and then get your Rodan trolling motor going, and get just in the casting distance where you can reach them, and you can work the school through there, and that'll be your best bet. So you got a picture here of actually myself that Rick took with me, but we were catching some redfishes in the oversized red that we ended up releasing.
Whoa.
As I go on.
Trout fishing, I said it's been good along the King Ranch shorelines. Sunken spoils in the beds out of the grass here out of Port Mansfield. Live croaker's working really well. Also saltwater assassin, chicken on a chain, that works really good. Magic grass, I always like that go-to color there. Also with these calmer winds, it's the best bet on your lures there if you can. You can get your shallow sport up along the bank there, kind of power pole down, wade fish those shorelines, work the banks. Don't be afraid of casting 1-2 foot off the bank. And then also the grass beds, which would be more towards your east side there. If you're fishing at deeper water, if you're fishing at 4 or 5, even up to 6 foot of water, then definitely power pole down. Get some 8-foot power poles are bigger, and power pole down. Use your live croaker out there. You'll get in the reed lines and the pockets out there. That's working really good. And if you can, remember, try to practice. We do a lot of that, catch and release nowadays if you can. And harvest just what you need to take home for some dinner or some of your buddies. It's 3 fish per person down here in the lower coast, 17 to 23 inch Rules in effect, and we actually snuck a picture. We were fishing for redfish, and I got a picture of Captain Rick Murphy with a good-sized lower coast trout we released.
Oh, dang. Look
We
at
wasn't
that.
in no trout tournament, though, Bree.
Yeah, we're going to have to read the fine print next time, Rick.
But
We're gonna tell you redfish on it.
If you
So
were,
moving
you'd win.
So moving to offshore, state water snapper fishing is open. It's been really good too, remains good. With quite a bit of Dorado. I've been talking about Dorado here this year. Normally don't have that many, but deeper by the shrimp boats and some weed lines up by 39 fathoms, even out deeper. State water snapper, like I mentioned, open. The bite's good. With these better water and clarity, the sea conditions, everything adds up. So you can try to throw a little chum, get them up higher in the water column. You can free line an eagle claw circle hook out the back. So just pin a piece of bait on or a fish bite, toss it out the back. Free line, just keep it moving until they pick it up, let them run 10 feet, and then set the hook, and you'll be good there. Also, you can use eagle claw trocar, the jigs. I like using those things. Those hooks are sharp and they're really tough, 1 to 3 ounce, and tip that with a fish bite. And that one you want to go down in the middle of the water column and get the bite going that way. If the currents are higher, which is pretty rare, but if you have a storm come through or something else, or you're in a weird area where the current is picked up, then you go back to a double drop rig and start fishing the bottom. A great combo on these things is a Penn Torque 30. I've been using them for quite a while there with a carnage rod on there. We've been spooling them up with 30-pound Mamoy diamond mono there, and you'll be able to land any reef fish there. If a king shows up or a bling pops up, that's a great combo because you still got a good bend, a good fight, but you got big enough stuff to land any other fish. But moving to the Dorado, like I said, there have been some really good numbers. Matter of fact, just got back in today, and we had 27 Dorado. They were not chickens anymore. They're moving into that 5 to 8, 9, 10-pound range. So look for those shrimp boats out deeper. Chum behind them, pick them up through there. You can also look for some weed lines, of course, or any floating debris. They're going to hold on that. Troll some smaller islander lures. Rig some of these with ballyhoo or some without. And what we also do, especially if these dolphin are a little bit smaller, make a daisy chain out of them. By this, which everybody should know, but if not, put 2 smaller islanders up front. Maybe space them out 2 feet apart. No hooks on them, and the last one has a hook with a rig on it. And you'll troll that right there, and they'll go nuts over the first one. It's kind of like a teaser, and they'll smash the back one. Just troll those at 7 to 8 knots, and you'll have some great results.
All right, thank you so much, Chad. Had a great time with you this past week. We're going to go and take a look at the shallow sport boats, hotspots from the lower coast region. Chad says the 9-mile hole in the land cut is holding some schools of redfish. Trout fishing is good along the King Ranch shoreline, out 3 to 5 feet of water on the grass beds and the sand pockets. And then offshore, state water snapper fishing is good with the Dorados behind the shrimp boat or weed lines. We caught a Dorado while we were king fishing.
I want to
off
know.
of the beach. It was this big.
Okay, but I want to know if Erica was in the tournament.
Erica was not in tournament.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
his wife.
That's the lucky charm.
She
was
would have
at
won.
the dock.
All
I know.
right. In the upper fresh region, we're looking at Texoma, Athens, Lavon, and Tawakoni. So let's get to it, Mike.
Hey guys, good to be here as always. Yes, Lake Fork, man, we got the coolest thing that could have happened. We had low lake conditions, and the recent heavy rains have brought the lake up 2 feet in elevation. This has the bass very scattered, but we're catching fish in all depth range from 1 to 20 feet. For the shallow bite, really the early morning and the late evening topwater bite is your best bet. I highly suggest that you use the Berkeley J Walker, thrown on shallow reefs, main lake points, and secondary points with timber, standing timber, and bone white is the best color. You can also go into the backwaters and throw a half-ounce buzzbait in white and/or chartreuse with twin-tailed trailers. Be sure that you're fishing real shallow in the backwaters around the newly flooded brush and grass cover. It's a little dirtier water, so this bite can happen and stay all day long. You really want to cover a lot of water first. Slow down once you get a bite or two, as there's likely more fish present in those areas. There's still a deep bite happening on Lake Fork. I'm using 8 to 10 inch straight tail worms on a 5/8 ounce stand-up shaky head. I like to fish the longer points, the shellbed reefs in about 14 to 20 feet of water. Bass Lady Brook caught a big 8-pounder this morning at 12 foot. But also look for those brush piles in the same areas. And for the brush piles, I really prefer to use a Texas rig over the shaky head. And the reason being is it just doesn't hang up as much. Your best colors there are going to be Green Pumpkin Magic, Junebug, and Watermelon Candy, or Blue Flex. Be sure to dip those tail chartreuse on the Watermelon Candy and the Green Pumpkin to get more bites. And then, of course, last but not least, 3/4 ounce football jig in any crawfish color on Lake Fork is always a big fish catching bait. Let's give you a little more bass information. Let's tell you about Lake Athens. The water is crystal clear. The water temperature is 88 degrees. The bass are schooling in the mornings and midday, and even in the evening. So if you just stay looking for schooling fish, fish top waters early morning around the docks, and then really go out on your points, watch your grass lines and your humps. You can also catch a few fish on soft plastics there, Texas rig worms, brush hogs, and creature baits. I want to give you some crappie information. Crappie, bluegill, and sunfish. Lake Lavon with Carrie Thorne. The crappie fishing is great there. It's best after 10 o'clock in the morning. Look for structure in 10 to 18 foot of water, with 14 being your best depth. Minnows and jigs, as always, there's your best bet. If you fish before 10 a.m., the fish are a little shallower. You're finding them in 5 to 7 feet. Lake Fork with Terry Moon. Man, I love this gal. I want to watch for schools of shad. Target the 16 to 24 foot depths for the crappie there, holding in 18 to 12. They're kind of around the main lake points, humps, and tree lines and scattered timber. When they're actively feeding, they'll hit just about any jig. If they're not, be sure and tip your jig with a live minnow. Don't waste your time in one spot. Move around and find productive fish. Your best way to keep moving. And here's some great picks. Terry Moon, and an awesome catch with a memory of her mother and father.
Cool. That's nice.
Aww,
that's so nice.
that's
Good
great.
job, bud.
Yes, let's just give you one more real quick one. If we can hop on to hybrid stripers and bass. We'll do Lake Lavon with Carrie Thorne. It's really good. Sporadic topwater in the morning, mostly small fish. The 1 ounce slab spoons are also catching fish out a little deeper. But if you stay with the top waters, you're only attracting those smaller fish. So when you see the surface boils, kind of fish underneath them, and that 5 foot underneath that is where those bigger fish are. And you want to really be out in the open water in 10 to 20 feet. Again, Matt Carp is crushing it on Tawakoni. I cannot believe the size of these big stripers that he keeps catching week after week. The striper hybrid and white bass are schooling all day on cloudy days on Tawakoni, and really good in the early mornings when it's not cloudy. Main lake points along the wall of the dam, also along the wall of the dam, really your best bets. Topwater lures, even believe it or not, Jaywalker over there works great. And bone, paddle tail swim baits, tail spinners, they're all working really good. As the day progresses, move out 12 to 18 feet on humps and points. Use the 2 ounce green slab. And as always, here's some just incredible big stripers coming out of Lake Tawakoni.
All right, Mike, thank you so much, man. Good job.
Yes,
We're going to go ahead and
thank you.
We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the upper fresh region. He says that we're going to heavy rains have brought the lake water up a level of more than 2 feet. All the species of predators, fish are fired up, and the bass are shallow, hitting topwater lures all day long. Big schools of crappie have moved up on the main lake points in 10 to 14 feet of water, and thousands of catfish have been migrating up the freshly flowing backwaters of the creek.
Thousands.
Thousands.
Thousands of them. All right, we're seeing what the Fish Bites Upper Coast has in store for us this fun weekend ahead. But first, Dave has some fun new products at the workbench to show us. Dave, what you got over here?
Some teeny little dudes. We got a new color for the Bass Assassin and fish baits. Yeah.
Tiny.
Nice.
Very teeny little crappies.
Love them.
Be zooming in on those.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Tin Cup Mountain Whiskey. Turn on the bite anytime. Tie on a Miralure. Abu Garcia, Fish to Win. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Fenwick, feel everything. Diamond Fishing Products, our reputation is on the line. R&R Tackle, from our tackle box to yours. And STARTRON, start, run, and store with STARTRON.
Well, we're here at the workbench, and as you can see, we're getting ready to troll the edge with Taco Marine. And you know what, Dave? New products is something that we talk about each and every week on the Texas Insider Fishing Report. So what do you want to start with this
Well,
week?
first we're going to start with the AFCO collections, the Heroes on the Water collection. AFCO partnered up with Heroes on the Water, and it helps veterans and active duty military and first responders reconnect with their families and get out on the water. 20% of all the collection is given to the heroes on the water. So these are really some really nice shirts. It's your 88% polyester and 12% spandex, which is a really good mix. These things are really light and they feel really good on your skin. They have sublimated graphics, which you don't feel because they're inside the shirt. You know, a lot of those printed on graphics, you can feel them on your back during the course of the day. It makes you sweat. They have UPF 40 sun protection, quick dry, all the moisture wicking. Just really, really nice shirts, and do it for a great cause,
And the reason why we got involved with Heroes in the Water is not only because of active duty veterans as well as non-active duty veterans, but then they also take care of the police and fire, all the first responders.
Correct.
And the families. So, sometimes they need help. The cool part about Heroes on the Water is they provide these events all the equipment, the paddles, the kayaks, the food, the lunch. All you got to do is show up if you want to be involved, guys. So it's really simple. Go to Heroes on the Water and see how you can get involved.
That's awesome. Yes. Next, we have the Bass Assassin, Panfish Assassin, and we got the Tiny Shad and the Curly Tail. And these are really just a new color, the Electric Shiner, which I really love that color, man.
That color is so sexy.
The little curly shad there is 2 inches long. They come 10 to a pack, and it's great for crappie and any other little panfishes. And the other one there is 1.5. The tiny shad is 1.5 inches. So it's really cool.
Look, it's alive. It's jumping out of my
Yeah,
fingers.
you just got to drop those things down on top of the school. You don't even have to twitch them because that little filament and the little curly tail does all the work for you. As a matter of fact, if you move it too much, they probably won't bite it. Just let it just fall right on top of the school, and boom, they'll come up and nail it.
Let her down.
BassAssassin.com.
Nice.
To give you some of those new ones there. Next, we got some TH Marine. These are some really nice multi-filament polypropylene fender lines. They're floating lines, so when you're messing with fenders, a lot of times you mess up and they get dropped in the water. Now you don't have to lose them. These are 5-foot floating fender lines. They're 3/8 inch, but like I said, polypropylene, which is hard to say. It's perfect for lining your gunwales with fenders, and very easily adjustable with the loops and everything.
So you want to know why I picked this?
I know why you did.
So guys, so many times if you have a technical poling skiff or you want to stake out or even have a rope that's just easily accessible, you want to tie off to the dock, this is already pre-made. So this goes around the legs of our towers, whether it's a front tower or a back tower, and now it can easily go the cleat. You don't have to have any fancy clips or anything.
Right. Or your pole.
Right.
You can
Exactly.
stick your stake in there. Yeah.
That's it. That's why I like them.
Very nice.
Okay.
Next, last but not least here, we got some mirror lures, slow sinking swim baits. They're jointed. This is the C31 MR. They'll run 2 to 6 feet deep. If you want them to run shallow, just keep your rod tip up and crank it a little faster. If you want it to sink, just put your rod tip down close to the water and slow down a little bit. Really great action for these things. You can twitch them or just wind them. They still swim whether you're not doing anything. Usually, if you pause to retrieve, that's usually when you get slammed. Wind, stop, wind, stop, bam. They're 4 inches long, 1/2 ounce each, and they come in a lot of variety of colors, even the fish print there.
What's crazy is it has the traditional mirror lure
bug eyes. Yeah, them big glass eyes. They're very nice.
Those eyes. Yeah, this certainly looks, the 3D printing looks just like a mullet.
Yep.
And certainly this looks like a shiner of some sort.
Yep.
Good job.
They'll work for bass or saltwater.
I think so. Good job, guys.
Mirrorlure.com to get you those.
All right. Bree?
Yes,
We have to go to another region, so where are we going?
we do. The Fish Bites Upper Coast region is now up, and Captain Carl Weston has the goods, so close us out and get us well on into that 3-day weekend. And it's your birthday today, so happy birthday, Carl.
Thank you, folks.
Go
Thank
fish,
you.
boy.
Yeah, with the rain we've had in the last few weeks, the water temps are holding around 82 degrees over at Sabine Lake, which is great. Great temperature for fish. Galveston Bay is a little warmer, but the bait is scattered around those grassy shorelines. They're popping along the rocks both inside and outside the jetty, so bait's a little easier to catch now. These larger fish are chasing shad, and they've been moving up and down the beach, running in and out of the channels. They're pretty much everywhere. If you find the bait, you'll find the fish. The incoming tide has been a little better as far as, a choice of tides. Grab your cast net. Bait's easy, like I said. If not, cut shad, a piece of shrimp, flavored fish bites is really a buffet for these big reds. They love it. You'll get a couple bites out of one piece. That's why we do that. We've been talking about it all year. Up your catch ratio. Throw some fish bites on there. If they knock the bait off, they're going to come back and get that fish bites. If try it, it works. It's worked for us all year. Diamond leader with about a 4-ounce egg weight. Right now, the 8-aught trocar. Live bait can be rigged with a popping cork right now, both shrimp or shad. If you see these fish blowing up in these shad schools, try topwater. Have some fun. Throw a Chopo 90, one of those gold magic swimmers. Fishing is really good right now, folks. Get out there and get some of this late summer bite. It's amazing. We have a picture today of Manny and his little buddy with a really nice big bull red. And
Nice.
so we're bounced right over, like we said, talk about trout a little bit. The late summer trout bite is solid as well. In between these rain showers, anglers have been getting out and they're making it count. Those oyster reefs over in the middle of the bay complex are holding really good fish right now. The birds have been on them early. Watch for the oil slicks like we've talked about. Check your Garmin. You're going to see these fish marking. We're pitching soft plastics along the rocks right now. That's been very productive. This week, those Fight Club shrimp on a Bass Assassin 1/4-ounce jig head or live shrimp on a popping cork as always. We've had some anglers freelining live croaker as well. This is working. When the fish are thick like they are right now, most of the bait setups are working. Use your favorite setup. The fish are here. It's looking like a great fall, a strong bite. Get out and catch some of these beautiful fish. We have a bit of a mixed bag picture today. Got a mess of flounder, trout, and redfish on the dock.
Nice. All right, let's roll offshore, bub.
Yes, sir. Running out. We're looking for tilefish. We've done that a good bit this summer. We've had a lot of fun. Been some nice days here where it's been really calm to get out deep. And, that's some of our favorite fish to eat. We're trying to stock up a little bit in the freezer. But they're fun to catch at this deep water. If you truly never done this, it's nice. It's fun to do. You never know what's going to be on the hook when you pull it up. We usually start looking in 700 to 800 foot of water. Sometimes end up out 13 or 1400 foot where we get a good solid bite. I always rig our R&R deep drop, the 4 to 5 foot hook setup with the glow skirts and the 8-aught, 7-aught hooks, whatever you want to try. I tip them with cut squid and always a piece of fish bites. I've been doing it all year, like I said. If you haven't done this, please try it. I know I'm beating a dead horse, but until you try it, you're not going to know how great this works. And so if you're fishing with an electric reel and you're hooked up, try to keep your pressure, but don't set your drag too hard. You'll pull these fish. You'll pull the hook sometimes. So just do this, retrieve, rebait, and repeat. We have a picture today of a little tilefish action. And while you're in the area, let's talk about grouper. Since you're already deep, look for some structure in these areas. A rock pile, an old oil rig platform can hold some really nice grouper and really add to your box of fish for the day. The deepest water grouper we have here in the upper coast will be yellow edge. And we catch them from 700 foot all the way out to 1,400 feet. These guys are found on structure and ledges near drop-offs. Look for these on your Garmin. They get up to about 30 pounds. Beautiful fish to catch and eat. Head back in a little shallower. We try scamp and gag. For us is a 300 to 500 foot range. And our biggest target fish in the grouper family is a Warsaw. I usually catch them in a 3. It's 150 to 700 foot range. They'll get up to 300 pounds, Rick. I know. I think the deepest I've ever caught in a Warsaw is 800. I know you hand cranked one from 7 plus. But and we have strawberry grouper as well. Catch them on rock piles or structure, and usually 200 foot or less. And your bait will range from a whole bonita weighing 3 to 4 pounds for a Warsaw down to little piggies for scamp that are only 3 to 4 inches long, and most of the time any fresh cut bait. And we have a picture today, Rick, of a beautiful little strawberry grouper. Those things are just really pretty fish.
All right, man. Yes, they are, bud. Okay, we'll talk to you next week. Thank
Happy
you so
birthday.
much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the R&R tackle hotspots from the Upper Coast region. He says chasing bull redfish on the beach while throwing live or cut shad tipped with fish bites on a slip rig and an 8-ounce sinker. And then offshore, deep dropping for tile fish on the mud bottom in 800 to 1,300 feet of water using an R&R deep drop rig with glow skirts, cut squid, and don't forget to tip it with the FISHBITES.
You know, beginning of Labor Day weekend, having a birthday, I think tops the 4th of July.
No.
Yep, because you get 4 days instead of 3.
How's that?
Because your birthday, you get a day off. Always. It's like a rule. Come on, you're like a whole month. Yeah. Anyways.
I never had that.
No?
No.
That's so beyond
always had to
my
work.
brain power
Comprehension.
right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Explain it to me in
Get
the
on my
commercial.
level, fellas. Thanks for tuning in. Go out there and catch some fish. Have a safe weekend. Happy Labor Day. We'll see you next week. Bye.